Now we would like to explain to you the functionality of the feeder and the adjustments of paper travel in greater detail. The maximum sheet size is 46 by 34 centimeters or 18 1/8 by 13 1/2 inches. If you engage the crank handle at the feeder, you can move the pile board up and down slowly. This gearbox can also be switched over to fast movement of the pile board. Lift up the feeder frame and position one sheet of the stock in the center of the feed board. The hand wheel simultaneously sets the lateral sheet stops in the feeder and the delivery. The lateral pile guides just barely touch the sheet edges. When processing smaller paper sizes, each suction device outside the sheet format has to be switched off. This is done by moving up the sleeves of the respective suction device. To switch a suction device back on, all you have to do is push the sleeve back down. The blast air has to be adjusted via this knob so that only the top sheet will be separated from the pile. The forwarding rollers must be adapted to the width of the sheet. Please move the suction bar to a position where the forwarding rollers can be moved. The Tommy bar screw has to be opened for this adjustment. Position the forwarding rollers symmetrically to the sheet. The distance between the forwarding rollers should be approximately 2/3 of the format width. Please make sure that the forwarding rollers lock into their proper position. If the pressure of the forwarding rollers is not equal, it can be adjusted via the upper knurled head screw. The stock is aligned either to the operator's side or to the drive side via a pull bar equipped with rubber rings. Slight differences in the stock can be leveled out with this pull bar. Plate springs are installed on the lateral limitation blades in order to improve sheet travel. Please slide on the plate springs on this side of the lateral sheet guide pieces from where the sheet should be pulled away. You can now change the direction of pulling with the operator tool. In this example, we are changing the direction of pulling to the drive side. The stock should be loosened and aligned to provide for optimal sheet travel. You can now pile the paper in the feeder. Then you turn the pile up to the first mark and disengage the crank handle. Now you turn the knob for the pile height counterclockwise to the lowest working height. Once you start the press, the pile transportation will also start automatically. The upper edge of the pile has to be adjusted according to the stock thickness. For thin stock, it has to be set to the lower mark, and for thick stock, it needs to be set to the thick mark on the scale. You will find more helpful hints in the operating manual or in our leaflet, Hints for the Feeder. For reliable separation of the sheets, the sheet separator fingers at the front edge of the sheet need to be adjusted to different stock. For thick stock, the separator fingers should not touch the front edge of the pile. And for thin stock, the separators should reach into the paper pile to provide for proper sheet separation. Move the lateral stops to the pile edge. Do not adjust them too tightly to prevent the paper from curling up. But do not move them too far away either, because they should still touch the pile. The stop should slightly touch the pile with the spring. The pile frame holds the rear sheet stops and the rear edge blowers. The rear stop is set to the rear sheet edge by loosening the Tommy bar screw. Two blowers will loosen up the rear pile edge. The blowers can be moved and adjusted to the format size via the Tommy bar screws. At the operation panel, you now turn on the compressor for blast and suction air. Adjust the blast air via the control knob so the top sheet lies against the front sheet separator fingers. The lateral amount of blast air is adjusted via the right turning knob. The knob next to it controls the amount of rear blast air. By turning the lateral and rear knurled head screw, you adjust the blast air so that about 10 sheets are loosened up and lie on an air cushion. The lateral blowing direction can be controlled as well. The correct pile positioning has been set. Press the button for double sheet positioning run twice. The top sheet travels into the press and the sheet length is measured automatically. The press stops, and now the double sheet detector can be set. Depending on the stock thickness, the toggle switch has to be adjusted to thick or thin paper. Turn the control knob all the way to the left until the control lamp lights up. Then you turn the knob to the right until the light goes out. Add 5 graduation marks for paper tolerances. Press the button for double sheet positioning run twice again, and the sheet will be transported to the delivery. With the crank handle, you can now set the rear sheet stop of the delivery to the format size. Please remember that the rear stop may have to be removed for small paper sizes. You can turn the lateral sheet joggers on the drive side on and off. Please push the sheet jogger against the side frame until it hits the stop and pull the little spring. The guide pulleys are on the chain sprocket shaft and provide for trouble-free transportation of the printed sheets to the delivery. If possible, the guide pulleys should always be positioned in the image-free area of the sheet. They can be removed very easily. The groove in the shaft should point toward the delivery. Pull the spring clip and the guide pulleys can be easily removed from the press. The ink repellent foil on the pulleys should be replaced from time to time. Put the guide pulleys back in and swing back the spring clip. The opening time of the chain grippers has to be adapted to the printed stock to achieve safe sheet laydown in the delivery. The opening time is too early in this case, which would cause scratching of freshly printed sheets. Reset the opening time via the control knob. The gripper opening time depends on stock and production speed. The front sheet joggers can be turned off and on with the lower turning knob. There are 2 fans installed in the delivery to provide for optimal delivery of the printed sheets of all stocks. Of the fans can be set separately. It may be necessary to readjust the sheet arrival when processing very thin or thick stock. One sign for readjustment may be frequent press stops because of early or late arriving sheets. The time of sheet arrival is set via this turning knob. The paper run should be checked again after having finished all adjustments. On Printmaster QM46, you can process metal plates and polyester foils as well as paper-based printing foils with a thickness of 0.1 up to 0.2 millimeters or 0.004 up to 0.008 inches. Please note that automatic plate ejection only works for plates of 505 millimeters or 19 7/8 inches of length. For punching a plate, you have to set the lateral stops all the way to the sides. Move the plate to the front stop. Exact angles can be checked with the punch template. The plate is centered by the lateral stops. Hold the plate tight and push the lever down for punching. You can also use this punch for film and assembly foils. This punching system can be used for pre-press and press and ensures correct alignment of the image. It provides for easy and high-quality workflow processes. The autoplate function activates automatic ejection and insertion of the printing plate. Ejection will be activated if there is still a plate on the plate cylinder. The position of the plate feed table defines the printing unit in which a plate will be changed. Move the feed table toward the delivery for changing the plate in printing unit 2. Now you just have to push the button for plate change twice quickly and the plate cylinder will move to the plate clamping position. Insert the plate into the clamping bar. Please make sure that the plate is exactly aligned at the front register pins. Now you push the autoplate button again twice and the plate will be inserted. Swing the feed table to the other side and put the plate for printing unit 2 in the register pins. This plate has to face down. Pressing the autoplate button will insert the plate in printing unit 2. You will find further information in our leaflet, Hints for Autoplate, and in the operating manual. Changing polyester plates is done the same way. The surface of the polyester plate should still be wet for trouble-free plate ejection. After a press standstill, the plate should be pre-dampened by a special function 01. The plate can also be removed manually if an autoplate error occurs. Move the cylinder to the correct position to reach the rear plate edge. The rear plate clamping bar can be opened against the spring pressure with the operator tool. Hold on to the plate and move the cylinder backward to the front plate edge. If the small LED of the autoplate button flashes fast, the front clamping bar will open when pushing the button again and the plate can be removed. If you need to remove the plate from printing unit 2 manually, you have to remove the roller package first. As shown in our previous example, the plate can also be removed from printing unit 2. Please make sure that the ball end of the rollers faces the drive side. Before filling in the ink, you have to install the ink fountain side plates on the operator and the drive side. Lift up the ink fountain and put on the lock. The knurled head screws have to be tightened equally on both sides by hand. Now you can fill in the ink with a plastic ink slice. The ink can be spread in the ink fountain by moving the lever of the ink fountain roller. When choosing the ink sequence, it's essential that the lighter color is in Printing Unit 1 and the darker color in Printing Unit 2. This will reduce the possibility of ink migration to a minimum. The inks have to be exactly tuned into each other when printing via one common blanket. The ink in the first unit always has to have a higher tack. If that is not the case, it is always possible to add printing oil in Printing Unit 2 to reduce ink tack and viscosity to the required level. The added amount has to be measured very carefully. Do not use too much printing oil. If one of the inking units is not needed for a job, you should apply resin-free oil on the inking rollers in order to protect their surface. After having prepared both ink fountains, you can now prepare the dampening solution. The dampening solution additive depends on the type of printing plate. There is a scale on the dampening solution container which will help you make the correct mixture. On the container, you will find the manufacturer's information on the amount of dampening solution that has to be added to achieve a pH value of 4.8 up to 5.5. Now you can fill up the dampening solution container with tap water. Please check the pH value with diagram paper. For installing the dampening solution pan, you have to lift up the dampening roller. The pan is guided by lateral rails. The value of the dampening solution container is put in the opening of the dampening unit guard. The amount of dampening solution is set via a turning knob. Depending on the type of plate or during long production hours, it may be necessary to readjust the amount of dampening solution. The press has to be in production mode when starting up inking. Turn the lever all the way up and start setting an equal inking profile. The ink fountain is equipped with a laser slit ink knife which is divided into 15 ink zones. Precise inking that is free of side effects can be set via the adjusting levers. Turn on the ink ductor to start the ink flow. It is better to start with only a little bit of ink. Turn the ink ductor off again. Now you can set the ink zones to the amount of ink required for the printing image. The ink zones have to be closed in areas where no ink is needed. When setting up a new job, it is recommended to start with high ink fountain roller strokes and only small openings of the ink zones. You will quickly achieve an ink-water balance if you pre-ink the dampening unit. The pressure between blanket and impression cylinder has to be adapted to the different stock. This pressure is set with the socket wrench according to the stock thickness. The range of adjustment has been predefined from 0.04 up to 0.3 millimeters or 0.0016 up to 0.012 inches. For pre-selecting the run length, you have to press the delete button. Please remember that the press can only be started if the run length has been defined. You have loaded the feeder, mounted the plates, prepared the inking and dampening units, and entered the run length. Turn on the waste sheet counter and start printing the first test sheets with the green button for production run. First of all, you should check the correct position of the printing form. It is best to use a ruler to measure the sheet. The lateral register is adjusted at the feeder. By turning the adjusting wheel during the machine run, the sheet can be adjusted sideways toward the printing image by plus or minus 2.5 millimeters or 0.1 inch. The circumferential register is set via a turning knob at the delivery. Now you can print the second test sheet and check your corrections. Please take a very close look at the register. Via the upper turning knob, the second printing unit can be set laterally toward printing unit 1 by plus minus 2 millimeters or 0.008 inches. The second printing unit can also be adjusted circumferentially by plus minus 2 millimeters or 0.008 inches. You only have to push the lower adjusting knob. If the diagonal position of the printing image is not correct, which means that the front part of the sheet is aligned correctly but the back is not, it can be adjusted by a diagonal register adjustment. Just press the button for diagonal register adjustment and the plate cylinder will move into the correct position. Open the top guard. You can now adjust the plate diagonally with the operator tool. Close the guard again and clean the blanket. After printing a few sheets, you should check the register again. The position as well as the register of the printing form are now exactly aligned. Slight inking adjustments can also be done now. It's very helpful to also check the register when processing multicolor jobs. After having adjusted the image, you should print about 20 sheets. Reload these 20 sheets in the feeder. Run them through the press again without changing any adjustments. The image of the middle 16 sheets should match exactly. This shows that you have aligned good sheet-to-sheet register. If the image has shifted, it is best to check all feeder adjustments again. They should not be changed during the production run, however. It is best to check the printed sheets again after having finished make ready. The last ink adjustments can be done now. Turn on the powder spray device to prevent ink layoff. And start the production run with the green button. After about 5 startup sheets, you turn off the waste sheet counter and the production run begins. While the whole run is produced, you should compare the inking again with your OK sheet. The register should also be checked again from time to time. The press will stop automatically as soon as the pre-selected run length has been produced. Clean the blanket and lower the delivery pile. For cleaning the inking unit, you have to install the wash-up blade. In order to clean inking and dampening unit together, you have to remove the dampening solution container and the dampening solution pan. Push down the dampening roller to connect inking and dampening unit. Dampening solution container and dampening solution pan also have to be removed from printing unit 2. Insert the thinner wash-up blade in printing unit 2. In order to connect the inking and dampening unit, you have to turn the lever at the dampening unit up. Remove the ink from the ink fountain. Swing off the ink fountain and remove the side plates for cleaning. Now, carefully spray some wash-up solution on the rollers. You will set the wash-up blade to the inking unit by pulling the lever. Please regularly apply wash-up solution until the rollers are clean. Switch off the wash-up blade and stop the press. Ink residues at the fountain can be wiped off with a cloth. Swing off the ink fountain roller and bring the fountain back into position. The wash-up blade should be removed every day and the rubber strip should be cleaned. Afterward, the impression cylinder needs to be cleaned with a cloth drenched in wash-up solution. Circumferential, lateral, and diagonal register adjustments should be turned back into their zero position. You now have the press all prepared for the next job.